Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am Sean. Today I am doing, I guess, the start of a new Editing Explained series. So in the mail today I got this, which is a copy of a new book of mine. At least I hope it's the new copy of my book, because I actually got two packages from Amazon and they're both my books. So I hope this is the new book. If not, I'll be opening another package for you guys. This is kind of getting crazy because actually just recently I got this in the mail, which is the 5th draft copy of Ottoman Destiny. So I will be filming and doing an Editing Explained video for this book as well. I've already done this book before. I think I've done 2 videos, maybe 3. I think 2 videos on this book, which I will link up here, I guess. So if you want to check that out, you can. So this book is Ottoman Destiny. The reason I'm saying this is because this book, Ottoman Destiny, is the 4th book in the Trevor Knight series. And this book is the sequel to this book. So I actually have both books now in the editing stage. This book is being edited, book number 4 in the Trevor Knight series, and just today I got this in the mail. I think it's that book, which is book 5 in the Trevor Knight series. So I'll be opening this up momentarily. It will be the first time I have ever seen and held this book with my own hands and eyes. So I'm really excited about that. It's real cool. It's like a new baby. It's finally getting to see the book for the first time. Let's open the other book. I'm so excited. It's the first time I've got to hold this book and see this book. Ooh, here we go. Okay, here we go. There's like a metal thing there. That's weird. I think it's it. It is. So this is the cover reveal, Arabian Dawn. There we go. So I'm excited. It looks like it's all coming out very well. So I guess I should read the back for you guys. This is, again, I do not put much thought into the back of books because I never read the back of books myself. So I am kind of tempted to not even have summaries for my books, because I kind of am of the opinion that I just like to start a book not knowing anything about it and read it. But of course I know not everyone is that way. I mean, a lot of people don't want to just pick up a book not knowing anything about it and read it unless they know the author, and pretty much no one knows me. So I have to win them over with the, text on the back or whatever, the summary. So I don't really put much thought into it. Really what I do to write the back of books is I just take any random book, let's just see if this has one, misread. So what I'll do, this is just kind of a way to just take away the pressure, because I mean, you may think oh, I have a 400-page book, I don't even know where to begin. So what I do is I just take a random book, completely random book, and just rewrite the book to fit mine. So the back of this one says the first novel in the beloved Fair Crier series, Village School introduces a remarkable school mistress, whatever. So I may, just to begin the words flowing, I just rewrite it. So the first novel in the beloved Fair Crier series, I may just write book number 4 or book number 5, whatever the case may be, in the Trevor Knight series. Arabian Dawn introduces the remarkable school mistress. I would say introduces the Saudi crown prince Asadullah, and I just rewrite it as it goes to fit my book. And to me, that's a way of just writing the summary of a book and just putting it in words that fit my book, and that way you get the book summary out of the way. And then of course you can just tweak it. So you may think, well, I don't really need all these words saying the 4th book in the Trevor Knight series. Maybe I don't like that. So maybe I just begin with, this next word or whatever. So that's kind of what I recommend for people, for writers. If you don't know how to write the summary of a book, just take any random book and just rewrite the back of that book to fit your book. I think that's really helpful, and that just helps you knock out some kind of a summary for your book. Just rewrite it in your own words to fit your book. So anyway, again, I only wrote this up in like 5-10 minutes, maybe. I don't know, probably closer to 5 minutes. So I still want to check out this book. It's my first time having it. It looks pretty big. You know, it's not too big of a book by my standards, because Autumn and Destiny, the book before it, is, you know, pretty good, pretty big. So you can see the size comparison. So it's not as big of a book, because this book, Autumn and Destiny, has a lot of characters, and I kind of wanted to cut down on that. So this has a bit of a smaller cast, and, you know, I'm trying to tell a much tighter story in this book. So that's why it's a little bit smaller, but it's still a pretty nice looking book. Nice size book. Just about over 500 pages. So that's nice. That's a pretty decent sized book. Anyway. Oh, I should say, you know, I've done all this cover completely myself. I didn't have anyone helping me on it. So, I mean, there's little things I could tell right away. Like, you know, I kind of think the text is a little bit too high there. So I may want to see if I can scooch that down. So I think, you know, I think I could just move all of that down a little bit. So, you know, the ground will be a little bit closer to the edge there, and that way that gets everything down. That way the title will have more room, so it's not like butting into the camel, you know. All of it will just be moved down a little bit, and that way I could get the title down a little bit. This is kind of real, I know I should be telling you about the back of the book, but anyway, this was real tricky and frustrating to deal with. There was a line here because the sky, basically, for the image I got, the sky ended right here. So what I did is I just took the same image and I flipped it upside down. So like if you were to see like the book cover continue, you would see this same cover upside down up here. So you'd see like an upside down camel. And I did that because that way I could have like the same kind of color of the sky, like, you know, the sky's color moving up. It's kind of close to that. But there was a line here and I didn't know how to get rid of it. So I like tried like, you know, moving the image down and like altering the transparency to try to make it, you know, blend in, and basically trying to get rid of that line. And I just couldn't figure out how to do it. So what I did is I added this little, I don't know, shape there or whatever. But what I think I may do is I may change that color from green to white. I don't know, just so it stands out a little bit more. I think I chose green because green is kind of the color of Saudi Arabia, which this book is set in. But I think it may look better white. I don't know. I may also try like gold because the main character has like amber eyes. So I don't know. Maybe gold would go there for that little shape there. Again, I don't know if you can really see it. But anyway, that was like an hour of work trying to figure out how to get rid of that line. And, you know, finally I just thought, well, what if I put some kind of line there? Like an actual line to get rid of the line. And I don't know, I think it looks pretty cool. If you're like thinking like, man, he's going on and on about this line. This is what you have to worry about when you're writing or, you know, trying to put together a book. Little things like this, because like this image, I can't just like, you know, enlarge it to make it, you know, fit there, because, you know, this guy would have gone off to the screen, the camel would have gone off to there. So I can't just like pull the whole image and make it bigger, you know. And I'm not very good at like Photoshop or anything, so I don't know, I didn't know how to, you know, what to do here. Again, I keep talking about this, I'm so sorry, but this is just like something as a writer you put a lot of thought into, because, you know, basically the image ended here. So what do I do with all this section? For a time, I put just like a black, you know, stretch there. So, you know, then you add, you know, the Arabian part, white over just a black thing, kind of like this. But I didn't really like that because it just didn't really look right. So then that led me to come up with the idea of flipping this guy around. Anyway, just little things like that. So also in the background here, I have a Saudi flag that's kind of, you know, blended into the background. And that is carrying on a motif of the series. Also with the silhouette here, this is all kind of becoming part of the like series imagery, I guess. So, you know, a silhouetted figure with a flag in the background, right? Here, with the previous book, Autumn and Destiny, you have the silhouetted figures, you have the background, and then in the background, I don't know if you can see it very well, but there's a Ottoman or a Turkish flag, not an Ottoman flag. A Turkish flag is blended into the background. And again, this book is not published yet. This is in the editing phase as well. And I did all this cover myself as well. So there's a Turkish flag blended into the background there. This is book 4. And then over here, I have book 3, Syrian Dander. I did not do this cover, but the person who did it did this like silhouetted figure with like, I wanted it to be like a jet crash in the background. So that's what like the character is overlooking is, you know, this plume of fire, which is supposed to be the jet crash. And in the background, there's like a Syrian flag because this book is set in Turkey. So it's all kind of, you know, a motif. So silhouetted figure with a Syrian flag, silhouetted figure with, I think that's Hagia Sophia or whatever in Turkey. I don't know. I think it's Hagia Sophia, I'm guessing. And then finally, the camel. The silhouetted figure with a camel. So anyway, let's get to the summary of the book. I'm sorry, I'm so excited. It's just a brand new book for me. So anyway, okay, the summary of the book. I'm sorry, I'm so hyper. Okay, so it says, Asadullah, the son of the new crown prince of Saudi Arabia, and again, I just wrote this in about 5 minutes, is bringing in advisors from Western nations to help steer the country in a new direction, away from religious intolerance and dependence upon oil. One of the advisors he brings in, Trevor Knight. Going with him, Maura Fox, a mysterious new hire. Serving as his translator and more importantly to ensure he keeps out of trouble, she is surprised to find Knight uncharacteristically behaving himself. But when a war breaks out in Yemen, Iranian assassins target the prince, and Saudi Arabia, then it kind of gets difficult to read because there's this not for resale thing. Iranian assassins target the prince, and Saudi Arabia continues to violate the rights of women. How long will Knight's good behavior last? The unlikeliest of friendships forms between Knight and Asadullah. But as the crown prince begins to make sweeping changes across the country, the question becomes, is he a reformer making necessary changes, or is he a brutal dictator in the making? So like one thing I could tell right away is the text here for making kind of crosses a little bit over into the barcode area. So, you know, I may want to like just tighten that font up a little bit. But otherwise it looks good. On the back there I have a little cover of Nibbler giving me a kiss. I think that was the like cover of one of my YouTube videos. I was kind of like, you know, I got to the point where I was going to add the author picture and I wanted to have a picture with Nibbler, and I tried getting a picture with him, but he was just being uncooperative that day. He did not want to take a picture. So I was like, oh, what do I do for the author picture? Then I realized, hey, wait a minute. I think I have a bunch of pictures of Nibbler for my YouTube videos. So I just got that one. So a little nice picture of Nibbler giving me a little kiss. So that's the author photo for the book. Something else I did with this book that I really like, which I'm going to have to incorporate into my other books, is, you know, for the spine here, Arabian Dawn, Sean Holt, I had that empty space there. So I had the idea of adding a little part. I know you can't really see it now because there's this band here, but it has a little thing there where it says TK number 5. So what that tells you is this is book 5 in the Trevor Knight series. So what I want to do now is, for all these books, is to add that little TK number, whatever, for the book number for each book. So that way, like when the books are on the shelf, you could just plainly see Trevor Knight number 5, Trevor Knight number 4, Trevor Knight number 3, and so on. So that's going to be something I change for like all the books going forward. You don't have to read these books in order, but I just think it's real handy to have that there, because if you just see this book on the shelf, Arabian Dawn, you may not know, like, is this part of a series? Is this book 1? Is this book 2? Whatever. So having that little number there tells you in an instant, that's book 5. So if you're looking for a very specific book, you could just quickly look on the shelf and, oh, there's number 5. That's what I need. So that's pretty cool. And I made it like orange or gold or whatever because, again, that's the color of the character's eyes. So I think that's kind of another motif of the series. It's kind of like orange or amber is the color for the Trevor Knight series because of his eyes. That will also mean I'll have to do the same thing on this cover. So this is the 5th draft. So for the 6th draft of this cover, I'll want to add that little number 5 there. And also, since I'll probably want to make it like the same height, you know, I mean, like right here, it would go like right down there. But that kind of look weird if, you know, on the shelves, if it's, you know, there for one and down there for the other. So what I'll try to do probably is try to move that font closer together, or I don't know, maybe move this down a little bit to try to make sure they're like in the same location for all the books in the series. I don't know, again, that's just something you think about when you're doing these books, because it'd just be like, it'd look weird if one is down there, one is down there, one is up here, one is down there. So just to have them all aligned if possible. But it's going to be kind of tricky because like the font of the title, you know, it goes down too far. So I don't know. Sorry for talking so much about this. Okay, so what I'm going to be doing for this book is this is the beginning of a new Editing Explained series for Arabian Dawn. So this is the 4th draft of Arabian Dawn, the 5th book in the Trevor Knight series. So for this video, what I'll be doing is I'll be going through the book and showing you the changes I am making to this book and explaining why I am making these changes. So for this draft, since this is my first time editing this book, there'll be probably a bit more edits for this book. And at this stage in the editing process, I am looking more at the bigger picture stuff. So I am looking more at like a paragraph and a scene level to make sure like everything is kind of contributing to the paragraph and to the scene. I am not as concerned at this point about like every single word being the exact right word. I am doing a little bit more general editing to try to just make sure like, oh, I don't have this needless paragraph, or maybe this paragraph could go down here and this sentence could go up here, and you know, these sentences are all unnecessary and this joke is just stupid and whatever. So for this draft, it's really just, you know, trying to just make it not as bad. So presumably there's going to be more edits here since it's the first time editing. But for this book, I'm actually pretty happy with this book. So I mean, some books I know are going to be a lot of work. For this book, I think it is pretty close to like being publishable. I don't know. We'll see once I begin editing it. Maybe you'll see this book just covered in red ink, which to me, I like that because, I'm sorry, I feel like I'm talking so much in this video. I like covering these books in red ink because to me, I like this book already very much as it is. So if I am able to cover this book in red ink and just make like 8 corrections per page, to me, I'm not going to think like, oh man, I did a terrible job there. I'm going to think, man, I already liked this book very much. And now, because of all these changes, this book is going to be that much better, that much stronger. And I'm going to see like 8 corrections per page, 5 corrections there, 4 corrections there, 10 corrections there. I'm going to be like, man, this book is really coming together. So I get excited about that. I love editing. I love covering these books in red ink. So I'm excited to get into it. And this is where I'm in a weird position because I am editing this book. Like I say, I need to begin with Act 2. I have not begun Act 2 at all. That's where I want to start with this one. Again, I've already done the prologue kind of accidentally because I forgot I was supposed to begin on Act 2. So I need to begin editing Act 2 of this book. And at the same time, I could begin editing Act 1 and the prologue of this book. So both books are currently in the editing stage, and both are Trevor Knight books, book 4 and book 5. So it's kind of cool, like just having both books, you know, copies of both books, and you know, they're both getting closer to publishing. So yeah, Ottoman Destiny, I'll do 2 more drafts after this one. So I am kind of estimating maybe at the end of the year, this one will be ready to publish. And then for Arabian Dawn, sometime next year, I guess. Yeah, I don't think I'll be ready for it this year. But yeah, once a book is in the editing stage for me, it kind of begins a countdown to publication because with editing the book, I do the first 3 drafts on the computer. That can kind of take a while because, I may hit like a writer's block or whatever, or I just like lose interest in the book or whatever. I just have trouble with the book or whatever. So, I mean, a draft on the computer may take anywhere from months to years. For this book, the first draft, I think, took like 4 years. For this book, the first draft took like a month and a half. But once a book is in the editing phase, like these two are, it kind of begins a countdown to publication because I can kind of always edit. I love to edit. I love to cover books in red ink. I hear a lot of writers are like, oh, I hate editing so much. I love it. The only real problem with it is making the corrections into the computer, because if I have just like the whole page covered in red ink, it's just real time consuming to make all of those changes into the computer. And especially you can imagine, like, after going through the whole book, 600 pages, making all these corrections, working page after page after page after page, and you finally get done with the book and all the red ink and it's all covered in red ink, then it's like you think, oh, it's done. No, it's not. That's only half the work. Now the hard part begins because you have to go through it again and make all of the corrections into the book. And it's just real time consuming. It's real frustrating. And a lot of errors could be introduced that way. Like, because I may change a word in a sentence, but I may not realize how changing that one word ruins another sentence. So it's real frustrating. Or, maybe as I'm just clicking around to go down to a different paragraph, maybe I accidentally delete a letter or delete a word or anything. So a lot of errors could be introduced like at this stage where, I'm trying to do one thing. I'm trying to focus on one part of a sentence or whatever, one paragraph, and I don't realize, oh, I just deleted this word or this letter from this other paragraph or this other sentence or whatever. Or maybe, deleting one word affects another word and now the sentence doesn't work anymore. And when you reread it, it's plainly an incoherent sentence. But that's just because of the edit. And anyway, it's just real time consuming doing those changes into the computer. It's kind of frustrating. It's real tiresome. Like, it may take like 5 minutes just to do like 5 changes into the computer. Just, it's so draining to me. So I definitely don't like that part of it as much. That is frustrating. But anyway, God, I've been talking so much for this video. I'm so sorry. Let's get into it. Let's get into the red pen edits. Now, I'm saying that now, but I don't have any red pen edits. I just got this book now, so there is no red ink in this book. I will have to edit the first act of this book and cover it in red ink, which I will be doing presumably sometime within the next few weeks. Hopefully within a month or so, I will have at least the first act done, so I could film another video going through the edits and show you guys the changes I'm making and explain why. And that's why this is an editing explained video. So I am so sorry I've been talking so much, but now I'm finally over. Let's get into it. I'm so excited. Isn't this cool? Okay, here we go. This book does, however, contain multiple references, however was unnecessary. So while none of them are must-reads before starting this one, it would help. I just added greatly there, just because. Dedication to the women in Islamic countries who know best the abuses rampant and permitted there. I got rid of best and permitted there just because they were unnecessary. This little section here, I wanted to move down the little by Sean Holt thing, kind of because I figured, like, if I ever signed the book, I don't know, I just felt, there wasn't quite enough space there, even though I, like, sign books, like, pretty small. I have a pretty small signature, but anyway, I wanted a little more space. Here you see the first map of the book, so I like hand drew all of this myself on the computer. It's not just like taken, copied and pasted from some other image online. It's something I actually drew. Even though like all across the image here it says, bigger, I want it bigger. I really don't think it's actually that bad taking a second look at it, because like a lot of the things I wanted to make bigger, like, Arabian Sea and Mediterranean Sea and all that, I don't think it really matters. I think the most important thing here is the city locations, and those are pretty clear. And for a lot of the smaller stuff like Red Sea, Mediterranean Sea, Caspian Sea, and then up there at the top, like Armenia, it doesn't really matter those things because those aren't really very important in the book. So you don't really need to see those super clearly. So I really think it's fine. The only thing I think I'll change is some of the capitalization, like Byzantine Empire. I want that all in capitals. And then Arabian Peninsula, I'll probably capitalize that as well. But in the lower left, I'll probably keep Abbasid Caliphate. I think I'll leave that capitalization as it is. Okay, here I kind of realized I have this character named Harun ibn Hussein, but Ibn Hussein basically means son of Hussein, so that is like not his full name. His last name is not Ibn Hussein. I'm literally just saying son of Hussein there. So I had to add his family name, so I don't even know where I got that name, but Al-Karimi. Usually what I do for finding character names, it may kind of sound funny, but I look up just like Iranian football teams, like soccer teams, and look at the roster of either like this year's team or some past team. Like, I'll look up like the 1964 Iran football team, or even just like a specific town in Iran. And then I'll just look at the roster of player names, and it's just like, I kind of like this name, so I'll take that name. That's how I come up with a lot of character names. So in my books, apparently a lot of my names are like football players. So if you're like a big time soccer fan, you'll probably just see, oh, football player, football player, football player. And the reason is because there's just a lot of names that way. Like on Wikipedia has a lot of names. Like just type in some random town for a country and just type in like, that town's football team. So like Prague football team, and you'll come up with a list of all kinds of names. And that way you could just know those are like genuine names for that region. So that's how I come up with a lot of names. So that's probably how I came up with this guy's name as well. Another thing you could see here is I change a lot of how I actually refer to this guy. Instead of saying Ibn Hussein, I call him Harun instead, his first name. I'm really torn here because like if you look at like an individual's page on Wikipedia, a lot of times it will mention them by their first name, especially like Arabic people. It won't refer to them by their last name, it'll refer to them by their first name. So I was real confused, like, should I refer to my characters in the book, especially my Arabic characters, should I refer to them by their first name or by their last name, by their family name? And kind of at first I was thinking, well, Wikipedia does it by the first name, so I guess I should probably do that as well. I mean, maybe that's more common, especially in like Arabic culture, to use the first name instead of the last name. But then I kind of realized it doesn't really fit the rest of my books, because I tend to refer to all male characters in my books by their last name, by their family name. So it makes more sense to do it that way. So I think going forward, I will refer to this character not as Harun or as originally Ibn Hussein. Instead, I'll refer to the character as Al-Karimi or whatever, his family name. And that way it will be consistent with all the other ways I name characters, usually by their last name, their family name. At the top here, you can see I wanted to change the Sean Holt and the Arabian Dawn thing at the top to capitals, just because I didn't really know like how it appears in most books, so I just picked one at random on my desk, and it was capitalized, the names there at the top. So I just figured they should probably be capitalized as well, so that's what I'm doing. You can see here how I was changing a lot of the character names from Ibn Hussein to Harun, but again, I'm going to change it to his family name instead, which Ibn Hussein is not. That's just saying son of. And then down here at the bottom, I just decided to break up this sentence because I felt it was going on a little long. So how to deal with him was wholly their own, full stop, as they did not owe their lives to, and then it goes on. At the top there, you could see I just changed a what to whatever just because I thought it flowed better. And then down in the middle, he looked at it as if he had never seen such a thing before. I decided to just end the sentence there because I felt it was just a bit stronger than saying and asked. Because you don't need to say and asked, because I mean, you can tell just by the dialogue that follows that there's a question mark there. So it's a question. So you know he asked something. And you know it's him asking the question because it's him in the sentence. You know, he looked at it as if he had never seen such a thing before. So you didn't need that little line there, and asked. So I just deleted it. Even though this is the first edit of this book, I am pretty happy with it. So I am kind of focusing a little bit more on like just getting rid of little unnecessary words in this draft because I don't really feel I have too much else to do. So I am focusing on like just cutting a word here or there to make the book a little bit stronger. So right here you can see driving their army all the way back to Baghdad. You don't need all the way. And the way you can tell this is by just deleting that phrase or that word or whatever. And if the sentence works the exact same way without it, that tells you it should be cut. So driving their army all the way back to Baghdad, driving their army back to Baghdad. It reads the exact same, so that little expression there is unnecessary, and you could cut it. And then, of course, you could see here, I also changed this guy's name, Al-Janabi, to Abu Tahir, his first name. But I think I am going to change it back to just his last name, Al-Janabi, because it just fits how I name all my other characters by last name. In the red part down there, you could see by the law of Islam, I decided to cut that because up there I have another use of that expression. By the law of Islam, you cannot prevent the faithful from entering. So I realized I just had repetition of it, so I just thought which one I liked most, and I decided to cut the second one. And then at the end there, as all the faithful are commanded to do, again, it's just unnecessary. As the faithful are commanded to do. Reads the exact same, so it should be cut. Here's the second map I made for the book, and this is actually the only other map for the book because, I mean, the whole book is really just set in Saudi Arabia. So again, you know, there's the capitalization issues up there at the top with like Armenian stuff, but the rest of it I think is pretty good. The only other thing you may notice is like I circled the coastline like around Yemen, and the reason is because I like looking at it, it's a little bit gray. And I think that is because the like actual line there is like slightly blue in like the original map. So all I want to do is just change that to black. So that way in the book, it'll show up more as black instead of like black gray. So just change it, the color there. But then there's other little things like the little island there by Dammam. I don't know how to pronounce it, but there's Bahrain there. That is actually a fairly important location, so I kind of would like to make that a little bit larger, the font. But otherwise, the stuff like Caspian Sea and Armenia and Azerbaijan or whatever, Azerbaijan, I don't know. I'll probably just keep that as it is because those don't really feature at all in the book. But Bahrain does, so I would like to make that larger. Just kind of tightening things up. So first off, you can see for David and the congregation of 53, the reasons, I decided to cut reasons just because there's not really multiple reasons here. It's just one reason. So I just decided to cut that reasons down to reason. And then the Bible was clear instead of were clear. And then the final thing is God had made a covenant with Israel, protecting the people. I deleted a comma there. I think I do kind of tend to overuse commas because like I tend to put them in just like between natural pauses whenever I'm typing. And it's kind of the same thing as I mentioned with like deleting unnecessary words. Just read the same sentence without the phrase or whatever. In the same way, read a sentence without a comma there. And if it reads the exact same way, it should probably be cut. So God had made a covenant with Israel, protecting the people in exchange for their exclusive worship. God had made a covenant with Israel, protecting the people in exchange for their exclusive worship. It reads the exact same way, and generally I think it's a lot better to just not like have readers pause unnecessarily. So if there's a way you could have them read the whole sentence like smoothly, you should probably do that and not have unnecessary pauses. Because I think unnecessary pauses could also make the book begin to feel boring, because it's like never really flowing. It's always taking little pauses, taking little breaths. So I kind of know that I overuse commas, so I'm kind of trying to get rid of them. And that's kind of the case throughout my writing. I kind of overuse commas, so using them less. Some real small stuff. So sermon, which reminded the congregation, I thought it just read better that way, and then that ungodly regimes would not remain in power for long. I just like the tense there better. Right here, molded from volcanic rocks. Originally I said hewn, but hewn is more like, chop down a tree and, you make a chair out of it. That is like hewn from, an oak tree or whatever. So I'm not sure you would really hewn something from volcanic rocks. So I just changed it to molded. But it could be anything. I mean, it could be sculpted. It could be whatever. But I definitely realized that hewn there was not quite the right word. Then a little bit later, they were often thought to have been built. I thought that was a passive sentence. And a way to tell passive sentences a lot of times is by the use of the word were. Were is often kind of indicative of passive sentences. So the prevailing theory was that they were... Oh, I have were right there anyway. But anyway, I just think it reads a lot better. Although their origin was a matter of scholarly debate, they were often thought to have been built. Although their origin was a matter of scholarly debate, the prevailing theory was that they were built by the kingdom of blah blah. I think it just reads better. And then at the very end, there at the bottom, some 1700 years later, Christians still maintained. It's the same thing, it's just reading a sentence without the same word. Christians still maintained, Christians maintained. It's the exact same. And I do also tend to repeat or overuse the word still. So I always kind of try now to get rid of still if I can. Right here for the principal port city for Yemen's landlocked capital, I decided to get rid of landlocked there because, in a few words later it says located further inland. So I think it just made sense just to get rid of the landlocked there. And then this sentence, nestled on a plains, blah, blah, blah. I realized that sentence didn't really belong. Bird. That sentence wasn't really necessary because this scene isn't actually located in Sana'a or whatever the city is. It's actually set in Aden, this section of the story. So I didn't really need this line about the elevation of the capital, but that capital city does appear later in the book. So I decided that sentence there, nestled on the plains, that sentence could be moved to chapter 25 when I actually have a scene set in that city. So just move that sentence over to that chapter. And then I could have a line there saying, the character is a little short of breath because the city is, located on a city, blah, blah, blah. I mean, located 7,000 feet, whatever. And then a little bit more towards the bottom there, the British kept their fleet docked. I decided, it could be simplified a bit by just saying the British docked their fleet at Aden for several months, just to kind of trim down on words. Right here, you can see it. Thank you, baby. Right here, you could see I'm pointing to that word gateway there. Because a few words later, I have this line, as it was their gateway to Singapore. So I actually had to think about this for a long while, I don't know, just quibbling over exactly how to phrase this, because I kept wanting to use the word gateway. So I eventually decided on as it was a stopping point for ships on the way to whatever. I thought about using way station there as it was a way station for whatever. But I thought that a lot of people wouldn't really get that, and I don't think it really makes sense there. Right here you could see I just have repetition of the word now, so I crossed out a now up there, and then down almost directly beneath it you could see there's another now there, which I decided to cut. Both of them I thought were just unnecessary. At the very top there, you can see I cut empty office because the pin there is pointing to another use of the word empty. So just thought about which one I liked more and got rid of the first one. And then I cut an all there just because it's unnecessary. First off, at the top there, after David, you could see I cut a comma, then all of, I cut that just because it's unnecessary. Who then saluted him, then was just unnecessary, I felt. And then down at the bottom, I decided to break up that sentence because it seemed like it was going on for quite a while, so leaned against the railing, full stop period. He gazed out at the city of Aden. Majid al-Saud had recently returned to Europe. I decided had recently was just unnecessary there. Now, in this case, I am actually referring to this character by his first name because he is part of this family, the al-Saud family, who is a completely real family. I mean, that's the Saudi royal family. I thought about changing it to some fictitious name, but then I kind of realized that since Saudi Arabia is kind of named after this family, why would it be named Saudi Arabia if it's actually some other family? Like if I had the family name like Al Farouk, it should be called Farouk Arabia. And I did consider that. And I actually referred to that later in this book. I think I show you guys later in the video. But anyway, usually I refer to characters by their last name, but since there are like, 6, 7 characters of this family, I don't really want to refer to any one of them by just al-Saud. So they all get referred to by their first names. Then towards the bottom there, unknowingly hours from death, deleted a comma, and then a little bit later, I am kind of changing a lot of these in the book, like contractions, like would've to would have, just because I think they do kind of read better. I thought that maybe it'd read better like having contractions, but reading it now, I think I kind of like them more in narration, even though they are a little bit formal and, they kind of stretch out, the words or whatever, would have instead of would have. I think they just sound better in narration, but then in dialogue, definitely prefer contractions. And then just cut in fact there at the end, just because it's unnecessary, and begin the sentence with he was looking forward to. Thank you, baby. I'm just trimming up words, so changed a Majid there to him, just because I tend to not like repeating character names if I can help it. I like just having he and him and she and her if you can. So changed Majid to him. As it so happened, so was unnecessary. Majid wouldn't even make it, even was unnecessary. He wouldn't ever see his nephew, ever was unnecessary. Most likely candidates for the throne of the country was unnecessary. Most likely candidates for the throne, period. Right here, his half-brother, king before him, I decided to change that because it just kind of doesn't make sense really, because Majid here, thank you baby, Majid here is not the king, so it kind of was weird, I think, to say king before him, because he's not the king. So his half-brother, king before Nasib. And Nasib is the current king. I thought it made it a little bit clearer. Thank you, baby. Appointed him as crown prince, as was unnecessary, with a king in his 90s, delete a comma. At the top, and that change was bad, that was unnecessary. Opposed having any women in government, any was unnecessary. Thinking that's unnecessary. And this little part at the end, their first son, Bandar, I chose to actually name him here because he does appear in the book in 150 pages or something. So I thought it would just be good to kind of lay that groundwork here that this guy's son is named Bandar. So that way it doesn't seem like this guy's son just appears out of nowhere later on in the book. So right here you are aware of the fact that this Crown Prince Majid has a son named Bandar. So it's just kind of setting up a character who will appear later in the book. Brushing her short battleship gray hair, her was unnecessary. His eyes flickered briefly up, briefly was unnecessary. Right here towards the middle, piercing look from her dark green eyes. I decided to get rid of this because the love interest, I guess, who is about to be introduced, Mora Fox. She has green eyes, and I think green eyes are actually like one of the rarest eye colors for people to have. So I thought it'd be kind of a little bit beyond belief in a way to have this secretary have green eyes, and then one of the next characters you meet, Mora, also has green eyes. I felt it just kind of too many characters with green eyes. So even though like canonically I think the secretary who has existed in previous books, I think she may have had green eyes then as well, but I don't really want to like have the overuse of green-eyed characters. So even though she may indeed have green eyes, I changed it to vibrant instead, because that way Mora's eyes will be more unique. She is green-eyed, and she's the only one who has green eyes. And so this character here, it just says vibrant eyes. So what color is that? I mean, they could be blue, they could be brown, they could be anything. And because ultimately it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what color her eyes are. But it does matter more what color Mora's eyes are. And I mean, like, not just because she's a character. I mean, the color of her eyes is actually like a prominent point in the story, because the character is always mistaking her eyes for being green or for being blue, which is actually like part of her character, that he's always like seeing her eyes wrong. There is kind of like a meaning behind that. But anyway, it's just a long roundabout way of saying that I just felt that I didn't want to have the secretary have green eyes, then a few paragraphs later you meet another woman who has green eyes. Because then it's just like, wow, green eyes are real common. So I wanted to save that for Mora. And then apparently I had a typo at the end there. His eyes rolled back. So yeah, typo. Right there at the top, and got rid of that, just broke up the sentence there. I'm not going to go over all the little changes I made in that lower section there, but I circled the part 25 years and just typed capitals, how old is he? Because I think I found out later, like in this book, while writing this book, that Trevor at this point is only like 27 or 28 or something, which is younger than I thought he was. I thought he would be like 30, 31, 32 at this point, but I think he's still in his 20s. So I wanted to kind of just check and see exactly how old he is to make sure this 25 years thing, that it's right. I am really terrible at like keeping like birthdays straight for characters. So in my books, I may like definitely mess up like a character being 30 when they should be 25, or a character being 10 when they should be 8. I'm just not really good at numbers. So unfortunately, that's just kind of a thing with my books. I'm just not very good at that kind of stuff. For that reason, I do tend to not say how old characters are, because it's just so hard to keep track of it. And also like worrying about birthdays. So I mean, maybe in the middle of the book, the character has a birthday. So while in the start of the book, they may have been 25, but at the end of the book, they're 26. And so, I may check the beginning of the book just to see like, oh, how old was this character? Oh, 25. Okay. No, they've had a birthday since then. So I try to avoid listing character names just because I know I'm not going to keep it straight. I am going to mess that up for sure. Got up and walked up beside him. I thought the walked up thing there was just kind of unnecessary in a way, so I just changed it to stood. At the top there, Knight's playful exterior collapsed. Whatever. I thought just it'd be better a little bit to have the character name at the front of the paragraph, and then the second one changed to he. Because, his playful exterior, I figure maybe some readers might confuse which character I'm referring to there. So I specify Knight's playful exterior collapsed, and then that way, because I have that, I could change the Knight there to he. He looked up to blah, blah, blah. Then about middle way down, you could see I had a typo, as if he should expect him to be named. And then just little changes. So you could see I like have that cross through the word and. That just means that I am having that lowercase. So right before that crossed and, or the A in the and, I have a comma there. So that just tells me I have a comma there. And then that and becomes lowercase because that's not the start of a sentence. And I really just do that because I don't really want to start sentences with and. I mean, I know it's kind of like a rule or whatever, and I don't really care about the rule, but I don't really want to just have like sentences meaninglessly start with and. So I realized it could just be better just have it a whole sentence. Just random changes. I mean, you guys could pause and read through it if you want, but at the top there, night, new, just change to he. Cut an anything there because it's unnecessary. Your very best behavior, very is unnecessary. Oh, swear word. Uh-oh, I should have warned you guys there may be swear words in this book. Right here, not just because there are billions. I don't really like just in books anymore. Just is a word I tend to overuse a lot. So I'm kind of wanting to change a lot of them to only if I can, or just get rid of the word altogether. So not only because there are billion. I think it just makes it read a little bit better. I don't really like the word just. I overuse it. Getting rid of unnecessary words. Can't I maybe go there? Just get rid of that. The Israeli job isn't ready yet, available yet. I've said, just got rid of that. Right there I say wrestle instead of Alfred, because earlier I think somewhere he says, oh, at the very top there, Russell's not going with you at the very top of the page. So this character clearly refers to this other character by his last name, Russell. So it didn't really make sense too much there to have him first name him. Alfred isn't ready yet to return to work. So he is consistent. He calls him Russell. Right here, I decided to get rid of a but there because I have a few buts in that like line of paragraphs. But guess how much? But guess how you sold the house? But where will we live? There's just too much buts. And this one I thought was especially unnecessary. So where will we live? Getting rid of unnecessary words. We both agreed. We agreed. But what happens to all our stuff? What happens to our stuff? Just unnecessary. Right here, the character Al-Aziz, you remember, was our instructor in the faith. I decided to change it to first name just because I thought it'd be a little bit weird them calling this other character by his last name, by his family name. So instead I just changed it to they refer to him by his first name. Just making more changes, and the seats were arranged in a 1-2-1 pattern. The seats arranged in a 1-2-1 pattern. Again, just read the sentence with and without it, and if it reads the exact same without it, it should probably be cut. He and Mora, right here, they're the only characters in the scene, really. So, I mean, I don't need to say, you know, he and she or whatever. So I can just say they, and that just shortens it. And typed quickly. I think quickly is just kind of a poor word in a way, so I'm kind of trying to change them if I can, like to rapidly or swiftly or whatever. And also I don't really like words ending in ly, even though rapidly ends in ly. In a short time you see I have that word fortunately, so I thought that fortunately was just a word I could get rid of especially. So right here for this middle paragraph, what got you interested in the Middle East, I decided this line here, he smiled, what? That just totally did not add anything whatsoever to the line or whatever. So I decided to basically, you see the line there before she smiled. What that means is that is the start of a new paragraph. So new paragraph. She smiled awkwardly, then adorably. That line before to tell you the truth, that little straight line there, that means basically I cut that line and it goes back to the previous line. So that's going to be one whole paragraph. She smiled awkwardly, then adorably. To tell you the truth, camels. All one line. And at the end there, he liked this woman, delete the comma, but knew again, cut again, unnecessary. Oh my goodness, look at all this. I'm not even going to try to go through all this, but if you want to like pause the video and read all this, feel free. Oh, right here. Here's another quickly I changed into swiftly, just because, again, I just don't really like that word quickly. Light knock sounded at the door. I just realized you could cut up this sentence here, so just begin with he opened it to see whatever. His bathroom, delete a comma there. And then right here toward the lower section, I love my tub. First thing I checked out. it's always the first thing I check out, so it's just repetition. So she just says in the next line, it's always the first thing I check out. So I didn't need that previous line. It's always the first thing I check out. It's just repeating the exact same thing twice. So got rid of the first one. I got rid of this paragraph just because it's really unnecessary. So basically they said this appointment. Then I have this line about Trevor wondering if he means morning or night. But anyway, it's just really completely unnecessary. I don't really know why I had it. Because, I mean, just in the previous, line or whatever, the page before this, he says very clearly, I'll meet with you in the morning. So I don't really know why I had this whole paragraph saying he wondered if he meant 9 in the morning when just 10 seconds ago, the guy said, I'll meet you at 9 o'clock tomorrow. So I don't know what I was thinking, but that whole paragraph there was unnecessary. I'm just getting rid of unnecessary words. And Mora's tongue came out and that just kind of seemed overdoing it. So Mora slowly licked her upper lip. Right here, I say knowing he had paid to tip the driver and the baggage handler. I also realized earlier, in the scenes before this, he had bought her a latte and a croissant in Frankfurt. So I decided to just add that here. Because he had not only tipped the driver and the baggage handler, he's also bought her some stuff. So right here, it makes more sense to include that. So now it's her turn to, pay her share and do something nice for him. The first Saudi king, she said. I realized this dialogue tag was unnecessary here because it's really the only 2 characters in the scene. So he found the prince's father. Who is this Michelle guy? That's clearly Knight speaking. So the first Saudi king, he took the throne. That is clearly Mora speaking there. So I just didn't need to say she said there because it just doesn't add anything at all to the line. So it'd be different if it said something to further her character, like the first Saudi king, Mora said, and then have some kind of a line there, something to flesh out her character more. But the only thing she said there does is just tell readers who is speaking, and they should really be able to tell who is speaking just by context. And yeah. Up at the top there, she paused between laps and spoke, breathing moderately. I thought that was all just kind of confusing, exactly when does she start speaking, because I don't know. Anyway, I decided to just, sharpen it up. She paused between breaths, period. Breathing moderately, she spoke. I think it just reads better. Then a little bit later, but this time again, there's a just there, unnecessary. Change a night down there to he, and then there's another night down there, also changed to he. I just like saying he and she instead of repeating character names. Robotic almost is unnecessary. Then I added this little line here, Knight's heart did a cartwheel in his chest, which I know is a bit overboard or whatever, but basically they see that this painting in this guy's house is a painting by Leonardo da Vinci. So I thought it made sense right here after Mora says, it's a painting by da Vinci. I should have some kind of a reaction there by Trevor. Just because, what would you do if you just go into someone's house and you see a painting by Leonardo da Vinci? I imagine, you'd be, oh my God. And I just didn't have any oh my God reaction there by Trevor. So I wanted to add that little line there. So Knight's heart did a little cartwheel in his chest or whatever. Knight's heart did a cartwheel in his chest. Just to, reiterate that, he has a reaction to this painting. I had to put that in there. Right here, you see that way today. Then the very next word is also today. So just got rid of the first one. Right there, the pin pointing to buses. You see in the next line down, there's a buses there spelt with 2 S's back to back. And I don't really know why, but for whatever reason, I thought buses was spelled with, 2 S's. And I don't know. I remember looking it up at the time, whether it's buses with 1 S or buses with 2 S's. And for whatever reason, I don't know why I mixed it up like this, but yeah. So when I was editing this, I looked it up again and it said that it should definitely be spelt with 1 S there. So I'm making the changes to that. I think I probably used 2 S's for about 90% of them. Right here, cheddar cheese chili, refried beans. You see a little bit later, I also say refried beans as well, so I just repeated that. So, whoops, mistake. You'll also see at the top there, I changed an Ariel to a she and a Dongan to a he. Again, just because I like he and she instead of character names. Welcome, said Asajala joyfully, opening his arms in a messianic pose. I decided to cut that because actually a little bit later in the book, I have a character who does that same thing. And like 3 times, he meets like 3 characters back to back. And each time he does this thing where he like opens his arms in a messianic pose or whatever. And I kept it in that, like I kept it in that scene. I like that like moment later on where this guy like just always does this posture when greeting people. But then I realized here, you know, like whatever 10 chapters earlier, I have Welcome Asajala said, and he does the exact same thing. So I thought it just really would be going overboard just having these 2 characters doing the same pose. So yeah, I just cut it, and I'm saving that messianic pose thing for the character who comes later. Right here, I have this added line. Knight saw that Mora looked unhappy and wondered why and hoped he hadn't said or done anything wrong. I really wanted to hit this point home or whatever because basically Mora is meeting this Saudi prince and his wife, and she sees that his wife like has a faint bruise on her cheek. So she kind of realizes that her husband, the prince, has hit her in the past. So when at this moment here, she like declines a drink and hands off her glass of water to this deckhand. So basically she's no longer drinking anymore. And the reason because of that is obviously because she sees that this guy, you know, hit his wife. So she gives her glass away. She doesn't want to drink in this guy's presence. She is pretty pissed off at him. But I don't actually say that in the book. You just have to purely pick that up by like the context, by the body language. So she sees this woman as a bruise, and then she hands off her glass and also refuses a drink. She's not going to drink. So a little bit later, in like 2 or 3 sentences, I have another line like going through this more, and you'll see that I think in a minute. But I really wanted to make sure readers really kind of got the idea that Mora is unhappy right here. So whereas before, you know, she handed off her glass of water, I thought readers may not quite really get that she hands it off because she is angry. So I wanted to follow her handing off the water to right away saying Knight saw that Mora looked unhappy and wondered why and hoped he hadn't said or done anything wrong. So right there, I really want readers to know she is handing off that glass because she is angry now. And why? Trevor thinks he may have done something wrong. But readers will hopefully know it's because she saw that this prince's wife has a bruise on her face. So she concludes he hit her. So she doesn't want to have a glass of water around him. She is not going to drink with him. And so this is the next line I was talking about on the next page. Knight looked to Mora, who gestured for him to the side. Suddenly she looked like she was no longer enjoying herself, and he wondered if he had said something wrong to the prince. So again, you know, I have that exact line basically in the previous, you know, image. But I wanted to have it up there. But I did think this line here could be salvaged. Was he wrong to ask about Asajala being far from the throne? So I could just move that line back to the previous line where, you know, it says, you know, he noticed Mora, whatever, wasn't happy. Was he wrong to ask about the Asajala being far from the throne? Just move that line to that previous line. Oh goodness, I don't want to go through all this. So mostly probably just getting rid of unnecessary words. Yep, it looks like just all unnecessary words. Right here, the stone looks relatively new. I thought that was kind of a weird line because basically they're looking at this like ruins of this temple, and he thinks or he wants it to be like 4,000 years old when really it's only about 1,000 years old. And so he says, you know, the stone looks relatively new. And I thought that was weird because, I mean, how does stone really look new? I mean, shouldn't all stone be like, you know, millions of years old? So, I mean, how can you just look at stone and say like, oh, that's newer stone? So I think it just makes a lot more sense to say this stonework looks relatively new. And then right there, lower half of the page, word to hazard the guess, I would guess, just repetition of the word guess. So I changed the second one to say. Right here, this is also repetition. So you see the pen pointing to this line. I didn't say I believe that theory, only that it's what Herodotus believed. You see this line I cut here in red. All I was saying was that that's what Herodotus believed, that the Phoenicians came from Dilmun. So it's just repetition. So I got rid of the second one. Just tightening things up. So Taki looked up and spoke what he said, just unnecessary. Taki spoke what he had said, the two quickly. Oh, there's another quickly I got rid of. Indeed, one person was missing. Indeed was just unnecessary, so cut it. Oh goodness, front deleted a comma, party seeming to be going on inside, just cut it. So front and a party going on inside. I'll beat them all, take the stone back. These characters don't really speak English well, so I kind of want to, show that as much as I can in dialogue. So I beat them, take stone back. And then you can see I changed this around. So originally it said Dongan asked. I changed it to Ariel because Ariel is more like clearly wanting to be non-confrontational here. She doesn't want to do anything extreme. She's trying to keep things simple and talk these guys down. So it makes more sense here that this line, can we call the police, be from her, because she's trying to de-escalate the situation. And then a little bit later where it says down, Ariel said, since I took that line up above away from Dongan and gave it to Ariel, I changed it to give that line down to Dongan instead. And then above that, you could see the line, Jamie answered in poor English. I got rid of that just because I don't really like saying characters speak poor English, because it seems really insulting and demeaning. Because my main character in the book, Trevor, he would speak poor Arabic. So if I was to be fair, I should every line have Knight spoke in poor Arabic or whatever. So I think it's just demeaning just saying a character spoke in poor English. So you could tell by the dialogue that, they don't really speak proper English. So I don't really need to have that line in poor English. I think it's just demeaning. So get rid of it. So these characters are Arabic, so they're not English. So I think it's just demeaning to think they should be expected to speak English. They're not English, they're Arabic. And their English is probably better than everyone else's Arabic. So I just don't want to have lines like that, just putting characters down for speaking poor English. English is a difficult language, and I admire people who are able to speak it, and, I respect that. So even if they don't speak it as well as I do or whatever, it doesn't matter. They're trying their best and they're learning. Same thing I mentioned about the characters, their English isn't very good. So just trying to get rid of little words in their dialogue to kind of stress that. So no towns, just pass. Just I realized was unnecessary, and it works better here not having that word for this character. Gas station coming up. Right in a couple words you see fuel up, so just repetition of up there, so it just reads a lot better cutting that word. So no towns, pass, gas station coming, fuel up and catch the whatever. I think it just flows a lot better, and it also shows the character's not super proficient at English, but it doesn't even matter because it perfectly tells you all the relevant information. No towns, pass, gas station coming, fuel up and catch whatever. Oh goodness, 1,000 reals for it. Oh, right here. So I had this character. This is like a businessman. This guy comes in to sell him this rock that is actually this real valuable item. So basically this guy brings in this rock and he wants to sell it for this exorbitant amount because this rock is supposed to be very, very, very valuable. And so he tries to sell it for, I guess, $5,000 originally, which I say in that big red crossed out area is $1,300. And originally I was going to have the guy maybe go for that. So I think he's offering, 5,000 reals, $1,300. But it is just a rock. So why would this guy really offer that much money, even though he's a super wealthy businessman guy. You know, why would he offer that much for a rock? So I think it made a lot more sense to offer him a much lower amount. So instead of 5,000 reals, he offers him 500, which is about $133. So $133 as compared to $1,300. So basically what it says here, I think it just makes a lot more sense that, you know, this wealthy businessman, you know, he's not going to pay $1,300 for a rock. You know, he'll give the guy like $100 or something just in the hopes that, you know, this rock is actually really valuable. But he's lucky to even get $100. So I just lowered it from 5,000 to 500 just to make it more sense for this businessman. Why would this businessman offer this guy $1,300 for a rock? Just getting rid of little words or here and there, especially getting rid of a few commas at the very top there, and held it against the bullets entry. I realized that was just not really a full sentence or whatever, so the bullets entry point. Oh, and then we have one of these. I don't really know why this always happens with like Microsoft Word and this conversion process to these like print books, but a lot of times like the chapters will be messed up like this. One thing I found out to actually maybe help this out though, I mean right here in this case, I think I just need to have a section break. Oh, I know what probably happened. I probably had a section break here, but what happened is, you may see in like my previous videos, what happens if I have a section break here, a lot of times what will happen is that line, the boat, and leapt it into the sea, that will actually appear on the previous page, and then there'll be a complete blank page, and then chapter 16 will begin on the next page. So I'll just have a complete blank page in the middle of my book, and I've hated that. So the only way I knew I could get rid of it is by deleting section breaks. You know, that's like a section break is like an automatic, you know, moves the chapter to the next line, which is usually what I want. I mean, you don't want to just hit the enter button until it goes to the next page. You want to just do a section break there so it automatically begins at the next page. But because of this stupid Microsoft Word issue, if you have a line at the end of the page, a lot of times if you have a section break, there'll be a complete blank page. And so I've been trying to figure out how to not do that, and I thought the only way was to delete the section break, and that is why I have this issue here with the chapter appearing in the middle of the page. Basically, it should not be that way. And so I looked it up, like why this actually happens, the section break thing, and how to fix that. And something I saw how to fix it basically is you pull up the like paragraph markers on Microsoft Word. I'm not sure like the button you do to push that, but there's some button you could push like to show all the paragraph marks. And so what you do then is you'd like click onto the paragraph mark for the section break, and the section break will be like, you know, the font will be like normal font, like 12-point font or whatever. All you need to do is like change that 12-point font to like 1, and that way that like paragraph section break or whatever, it will be 1 space, 1 font instead of like 12. And that way it won't kick the next chapter basically off onto another page. So there won't be a complete blank page. So basically if the chapter ends at, you know, the end of the page, all you really need to do is check the paragraph section break or whatever, go into the paragraph marks and change a font from like 12-point to 1. And that way, the gap, the section break, the gap for the section break will be so small that the next chapter will begin on the next page as it properly should. So, yeah, that's basically how I think you get rid of this issue. You just go into the paragraph marks and change the font to 1 size instead of 12. So I'm going to try that moving forward. And then right down here, this is actually that same page I was just showing you about. And then I had a like section break there because I just felt, you know, this is to mark a passage of time. So rock in hand, and then within a few hundred yards, I have a gap there to kind of imply that, you know, maybe, you know, 40 minutes has passed between the last line and the next. But I realized it wasn't necessary, so I just got rid of it. So just get rid of that section break there. And also, it's not like I needed a section break there because the chapter has been going on for like 6 pages and I want to give the readers a chance to take a break here and stop here and whatever. I mean, the chapter has only been going on for, 3 paragraphs. So I don't need a section break here for readers to take a break. So just got rid of that section break. Right here I have Knight said, yeah, explain it to me too. Ariel started to speak, but Knight, tired of carrying the stone, said, I'm just kidding. Right there you can actually tell Trevor is speaking both of those lines. Yeah, explain it to me too. I'm just kidding, I don't care about the rock. Those lines are both from Trevor. So I wanted to put those lines together, so the way I realized to do it, get rid of the Knight said there at the beginning. Yeah, explain it to me too, Knight said. The line there means delete that line, the space basically, make it one whole paragraph. So explain it to me too, Knight said. Ariel started to speak, but Knight, tired of whatever, all one paragraph. And then since I had that, I have the Knight said line there, I didn't really want to have at the end of, the scene here, Knight asked, now what the hell is going on? Just because it's just repetition of the name Knight. So I decided just to cut that little dialogue tag there. And there are actually like 4 characters in this scene. So I mean, that line could be from anyone. I mean, it could be from Ariel, it could be from Schuyler, it could be from Trevor. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter. It's supposed to be from Trevor, but I don't think it really matters exactly who it's by. So I just kind of wanted to get rid of the Knight asked line there. So whether readers think that line is by Trevor or not, I just wanted to get rid of that. And then right here, Taki Knight said, and then I have Taki said, well, I kind of realized in that previous line, that's like Trevor prompting this other character to speak. So Taki said Knight, like, hey, it's your turn, bro. And so I just cut that Taki said and just continue with his dialogue. And so readers should just be able to assume, because Knight said Taki, that it's going to be Taki speaking. And even if they don't really quite get that, then they should pick up on context, because it says, I wish my brother was here today, and then it says he was shot. And so readers will know that who was shot, so they'll know who is speaking here. Oh, and then it says, my name is Taki Uthman. So I didn't need to have that line saying Taki said. Right here, his heart starting to slam in his chest. I realized it could just be better saying his heart slamming in his chest. And I also, his heart slamming. I don't really have in his chest because, I think it's unnecessary. I think it's unnecessary. Like, where else would your heart be slamming? Like, his heart slamming in his elbow, his heart slamming in his head, his heart slamming in his toe. Obviously it's going to be slamming in his chest. His heart is in his chest. So it's unnecessary to say his heart slamming in his chest. Just say his heart slamming. And then this line here, her mouth sharpened, he died, the king, so Asajala's father is king now. I thought it was just really unnecessary because, if you look at the previous line, I met the king. And then the next line, the king, he said it's the king. He took my hand, kissed the stone, took a sip of water, and then he died. He died. It's just completely unnecessary, I thought. So just got rid of both of those lines. And so just, took a sip of water, and then he died. The lines around her mouth sharpened. So Sajala's father is king now? So, I don't know. It's just a crappy, unnecessary words earlier there. Oh, and then you can see I also deleted adjust. Anyway, that is it for the first act of Arabian Dawn. So I will probably do another act for you guys, showing you like my edits for Act 2. I don't know if I'll do Act 3 or not, or Act 4, because it's probably going to be pretty much the same thing. But I'm, of course, going to try to show you guys like any different changes I make. So any kind of like different words I am cutting and why. So not just showing you the exact same type of changes in this video. So yeah, just showing you guys basically the changes I'm making to the book at this point and why, to give you guys an inside look at what goes into editing a book. So whether you're a reader and you're curious, what is like writing these books and what is like editing, now you guys can see. Or if you guys are writers yourselves, maybe this will help you, because maybe you'll look at your own writing and help improve your own writing in some way. Again, this is only the first time I have begun to edit this book, so this is like very much kind of a raw draft in a way. It's my first time editing the book, so this is by no means going to be the final version. I'll probably do 3 more edits, I think. But anyway, there you guys go. That is an inside look at my editing for Arabian Dawn. So hopefully I'll be back with Act 2 of the book and show you guys some more edits I'm making. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. See you next time. Bye. 2, 3, 4.